Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hello, everyone. What a day we're going to have. I want to start. I actually have to follow notes. I have so much to teach. I am going to ask one favor of everybody here, and that's that you don't ask me any questions until I open the floor for questions. Once I start teaching and have a thread, I really don't want to be disturbed. Does that work for everyone? Thank you. Okay, and I need my glasses. Now, I want to start with an overview that gets us all on the same page. First, I want to remind you that really what this is about is you learning about your power in a way that you have never understood your power before. This isn't about, as I take us up this building, I wanted to emphasize, this woke me up during the night. I want to emphasize that this is never about teaching perfection or all of this nonsense. Really, the goal of what I want to communicate is that the degree to which we suffer, the degree to which we sabotage ourselves with our choices is not necessary. That in fact, and the way in which we understand what it is to be a conscious person is not accurate. Not accurate at all. I'm going to say something that's a very strong statement, but I think the first era of the consciousness movement was the devil's greatest coup. Was the devil's greatest coup. I think what we are going through now, the rise of barbarianism, the rise of violence, helps me to make the case that all the decades we have spent thinking that we were on a spiritual path is a mistake. We were not. We were on a path of self-serving. We were on a path of narcissism. We were on a path of indulging ourselves, but we were not accurately on the path of what it means to become a whole being, of what it means to actually pursue the truth that all life breathes together, that we are one humanity. We are not going in that direction. We're going in the opposite direction. And to that extent, I think a great deal of what is happening in the world now, the eruptions of wars that are going to get more intense, it's like it is emptying all the darkness that needs to be dealt with in order that we can pursue becoming a global community, which is essential. Because if you open your eyes and see clearly, and I mean see clearly, you'll see that we are now a global village that is facing not problems anymore, but predicaments. We don't have problems. Problems are like, what are we going to have for dinner? Problems fall into the paradigm that a simple solution can solve this. To wit, we'll just create a treaty with this country under the illusion that a piece of paper can silence a nation. You see what Buddha means by illusions? Are you nuts? Do you want to take a piece of paper and give it to a glacier and say, stop melting? Do you see how delusional we are? We don't have problems anymore. We have predicaments. And predicaments demand, could you turn your phones off? Predicaments demand that we transition. Global pandemics are predicaments. And look at how it pulled out hostility. It didn't unite us and say, we've got to help everybody. We have to help each other. It made us even more hateful. So we have to look at that. Is that the work of consciousness? No. What is that in us? Okay. Now, we're going to go into what health is. But I want to remind us that the trigger that is making this essential transition we're going through, because we're going through it, whether or not you want to be conscious of it. The only option you have is whether you want to become conscious of it. But this world is going through a transition. And this transition is one of learn to cooperate with each other. Just as an aside, one of my very oldest friends from the time I was 28 years old, is now in an office in Washington, D.C. that's funded by the U.S. government. And it is working to release the reports of extraterrestrials, which I think is extraordinary. And one of the bits of information that he shared is that he's working with a man that he went to Harvard with. And this gentleman, whose name is Daniel Sheehan, is an attorney, and his master's is in theology. And he ended up becoming the attorney for the American Jesuits. And Danny ended up having access to the Vatican records because in the Vatican, they have some really dynamic Jesuit astronomers. So, Danny was saying that he interviewed countless people who had encounters with extraterrestrials. He said these are ordinary people who, on a Friday evening, beings showed up. One of the things Danny said was all of the people that he interviewed, no matter where they were from, they had two consistent messages. One, get your act together when it comes to climate change. You're destroying your planet. Two, get over nuclear weapons. You can't use them. You cannot use them. Because the destruction you bring to your planet is larger even than your planet. We do not get, and this is where the building, the higher the floor, the wider your lens. We do not think in terms of galactic consequences for our actions. It's never occurred to us. Most people don't think about their actions in terms of how it affects their neighbors or how it affects even their family members. We do not think in this scale at all. When it comes to your health, people are only now beginning to think, what happens if I eat too much of this? And then they don't even care. Then they don't even care. I introduced the energetic anatomy system 25 years ago. And people don't include their energetic anatomy system in the profile of their health unless they're direly ill. So people don't think, if my attitude affects my health, does my attitude affect the climate in this room? Up a little bigger. Does my attitude affect this atmosphere? What about this atmosphere? What about the atmosphere of my planet? What about the atmosphere of the galaxy? This is the unthinkable and the unimaginable. Does my health affect a pandemic? We are not accustomed to thinking in that huge way. But the time has come because we are in the nuclear age. We are in the age of energy, which means we're in the age of our nuclear power. Our nuclear power. We have to think of our soul as our nuclear reactor. It is the equivalent. It is the equivalent. Now what I want to substitute a word here, and that's realization should be the word instead of discovery. Like, for example, when people, quote, discovered, when the West, Magellan and those, discovered that the world was round and not flat, did they really discover or did they realize? They realized that they weren't going to fall off the edge. They came to a point in their consciousness where they could realize what always had been. They didn't discover a new universe. They realized what always was. So they came into realization. This is a big deal to swap this word. Because as you pursue increasing altitudes in yourself, you're not going to discover anything. You're going to realize the universe as it has always been. So when you get up and you start understanding that the nature of God is not an off-planet man, but light, love, and law, that this organic force, divine organics, has always been. You are realizing what has always been. So you can cooperate with the laws instead of thinking that, and release the mythologies that are actually crumbling in front of us. People use the excuse, oh, the priests are just pedophiles and da-da-da. We're full of pedophiles. The government's full of pedophiles. There's online sex trafficking constantly. Knock it off. This is the era of that because we're out of control. We're completely out of control. But as you realize that, in fact, there's no such thing as a divine force that has a religion. It can't be. That is a profound realization that allows you to go up an altitude in yourself. And as you release that, what you're releasing is a whole universe of prejudice. And you look into these religions and you take with you the jewels, they're mystical jewels, the jewels of Judaism, the jewels of Christianity, the jewels of Islam, the jewels of Hinduism, all of the mystical jewels that, if I put them up here in the cosmos, you can't tell the difference. Because all the great acts of revelation, even Pythagoras, my hero, you put all of them up there. And if I gave you a quiz, who said this? Who said all is one? They all did. Well, how about it? Because all of them is, and here's something else. I'm addicted to the study of mystics. One of the interesting things is, once they get up here into the realm of the impersonal, into the realm of the impersonal, where they don't take anything personal, where they just are interested in not, what's the purpose of my life? What's the purpose of life? They start communicating with the cosmos differently. You know, none of them say, in order to get here, you have to be a Catholic. You have to be a Buddhist. They drop all this language and they get into this language. And I'm convinced one of the reasons why, I'll speak about the Catholic Church because I know it so well. The Catholic hierarchy, meaning Rome, was always so hostile to people that have profound experiences like Padre Pio or Teresa of Avila or any of these greats, Francis, is because they knew that people who make it to this altitude have this impersonal relationship with something so profound, and they always report that they saw the light. Not a being, the light. So their whole sense of the universe becomes impersonal but intimate. And never does the light say to them, you better go down there and tell everybody that they're damned if they're not straight, Catholic. All they ever report is love. So they're light, love, and law. The three elements that are constantly brought back. So what I have concluded after years and years and years is that all of us are on one journey, and that's the journey from our love of power as we first experience it in the 5 sensory world. And what I will tell you archetypally and inevitably is that we will all go through the breakdown of our world, because it is, in Buddha language, illusion. We'll go through the betrayals, we'll go through everything, because we'll go through addictions. This is this world. Because we have to learn what choices we make that are based on illusion. Until we learn not to invest our spirit, our soul, into illusions, even into. Someone says something to you like, that's the worst jacket I've ever seen. Now you have a choice there to take it personally or impersonally. To be insulted or to just, in the language of the Tao, not be attached to a spectacle. And if you said to me and came up to me, do you know what this woman said to me? She said, my jacket is just horrible. And if I said, why don't you bring me that insult in a box? Bring it in the box. We'll look at it, how big it is, how terrible it is. But she said it to me. Where is it? Show it to me. But where is it? You have to understand your power. You have the power to decide, this isn't going to stay with me. You would have said that to anybody. Your perceptions have nothing to do with me. Nothing. I'm not going to give you permission to enter my world. I'm not going to be that delicate. I refuse. I refuse to give my power over my being to everybody who has a comment. It's not going to happen. This is your journey. This is what the journey we are all on. That's what it means to have esteem for yourself, to realize you don't come into my field like that. I'm not going to let every single fly-by-night remark enter my energy field. Are you nuts? This is what I'm talking to you about. Okay? Now, each level of consciousness, each floor that we go through, marks a profound transition. And it includes all your 7 chakras. So don't equal this to the chakras. What is truth in this universe is that consciousness, the soul, is layered. Everything is a progressive journey. Everything. And I think that one of the reasons it's so difficult, so challenging, to make transitions of consciousness is because we have to take all of us with us. And we are constantly revisiting all these floors. Our first floor, this is our physical, the plane. This is our literal world. So this is where our 5 senses really conduct business here. And this is the world where you scare most easily, where you believe garbage most easily. This is the world where I will put it, you are most liable, most susceptible to advertisements on TV. This is where the least of your consciousness is operating. This is where the most of your consciousness is operating. This is where you need the most chemicals to heal. This is where you need none. This is where your chemistry commands you. This is where you are most thick in your matter. So at this level of consciousness, this is where we are subject to what modern medicine says about an illness. If it says this illness cannot be healed, and you have it, and this is where you dwell, then you cannot be healed. No matter what you do, no matter anything, because your consciousness is too diluted in the tribal mind. And even if you sat with someone who knows this scale, and I told you 1,000 times, you can do this. If your consciousness is so dense in the first floor, there's nothing. You can go and take, come here. See this here? You are completely chronos, which means this. This is one principle that's really important to understand about this world. And when I talk about this, I want you to go into you and to examine how you manage your life. And when I'm talking to you here, your mind is your worst enemy and your best friend. You tell yourself all kinds of narratives, like this doesn't apply to me when you know damn well it does. Everything I'm teaching here applies to you. Absolute. Why? Because we are all in the same game. All right? Every one of us. This is about co-creation. In entering the nuclear age, what is true, truth, is we as a species have unlocked our capacity to destroy our planet and ourselves. Up here is where the collective, our collective creativity is. We don't think about collective creativity on the first floor. We never think about it. We never think about it. You only think about yourself here. You never even think about your roommates, the people you live with, in terms of what you are creating together, in terms of the atmosphere in which you live. Beth, could you get me some coffee? Right? You don't even think about that. So the idea of the mystical truth of co-creation in the collective unconscious is far beyond what you could possibly keep in your daily calculations. So it's really a challenge to look at something like the nuclear age and comprehend that every single second we are actually on the edge of destruction. One of our survival tactics is denial. You actually think it can't happen. You don't get. You do not get that if we've got the weapon, we will use the weapon. You don't get that what is truth is that every part of us as individuals that has an appetite for vengeance, it's that same mechanism that goes into the decision to use a weapon. This is what I need to communicate to you, is that what is in one is in the whole. Which means for every one of you that gets how powerful love and forgiveness is, you become a jewel of peace and transformation. What this era is about is us realizing the great transformation from physical power to the power of your soul. That this is where creation begins, not here. What I learned as a medical intuitive is that by the time an illness is physical in you, by the time it shows up in your body, that is the caboose on your train, not the engine. The engine's up here. By the time you come to me and you say, well, I've got this cancer, I've got this, for Christ's sake, it's the caboose. You've made 1,000 decisions that have created this, and now I'm in the caboose with you. And you want to reverse all that, not even getting how you did it, or the power of the choices you made. Or the power of those choices, and the unconsciousness of realizing how fast, how quickly you've hemorrhaged your energy by responding to something someone said, big deal, big deal. In Chronos time, you can't let go of something that happened 30 years. What the hell's wrong with you? Every single holy teacher since Plato has said, get yourself in present time. What are you doing? Jesus, leave the dead alone. Buddha, there's only the now. But when you are in the first floor, here, Chronos, hour by hour time, it doesn't make any sense to you. You don't care. You don't think it applies to you. But in my case, my wounds are so big. No, they're not. And even if they are, do you know the consequences of holding on to them? And you may want to do that calculation. And you may want to say, well, my wounds are so big. Okay, here's the calculation. Here's the consequence. Your pride and your wounds are so big, you are hemorrhaging so much. It is keeping you in dense matter. It is keeping you in dense matter. You are, which means, if you came to me and said, can I use energy medicine? No, you can't, because you don't have enough energy of yourself in present time to animate energy medicine. For you, this rose oil is just oil. But the essence, the mystical power of it, the mystical power, you can't animate because you don't have enough. It's a cooperative healing power. So they could put all the rose oil, it's just going to be perfume for you. It might relax you for a moment, but it can't work on the higher altitudes, the altitude of light, where light transforms your cell tissue. And what it does is it takes the time out of it, which is why you heal faster. It's called a miracle. Ordinary mortals call it a miracle, but it's not. It is spiritual alchemy. It is what Jesus said. You can understand, if you understand what I'm teaching you, the speed of light, the speed of love, the speed of forgiveness, the speed of being in present time, you will get what I'm saying to you. And incidentally, if you are hearing this through the lens of religion, you are on the first floor. I am teaching you mystical science. Are you with me? Mystical. So I will refer to Buddha. I'll refer to Judaism. I'll refer to Christianity. I will refer to Hinduism. I'm going all over the board. But if you hear it through religion, I'm going to put your head in a toilet for 7 minutes. Are we agreed? Okay. Okay. Now, for you, take out your notebooks. In your first floor, and you two at home, I want you to do this too. If you don't think I don't see you, you're wrong. Okay. In this first floor, When you're in your first floor, how the world looks to you, this is how you construct your world and its primary atmosphere is security. Security. Remember that the first floor is all about safety, and I want you to imagine that your first floor of your life is where everything is, where you can touch and smell and taste everything. And so what this does is it activates your appetites. So imagine that you're walking around the world and saying, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And everything is okay about wanting. But it's when you decide, if I don't have this, I'll never be safe. As soon as you go into that equation, because one of the things Jesus said, you could be in the world but not of the world. As soon as you decide that I have to have this, or else, it's the or else clause that's going to cost you. Okay? And what it costs you is emotional energy, psychic energy, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I want to hit a pause button here. And forgive me for jumping around like this, but these pieces come in and I have to include them. This is your literal world. You take everything, and this is a world where you take everything personally. So if I said to you, God, I'm having a bad day, your response would be, is it something I did? What the hell are you doing in my bad day? Get out of here. I'm having a bad day. It has nothing to do with you. And don't butt into my bad day, because then the next thing is, I'm having to take care of you. Get out of here. It's not your bad day. It's my bad day. And if it has anything to do with you, I'll tell you. Butt out. Okay? This is where you take everything personally. My bad day has nothing to do with you. And one of the gifts of learning this system is that you start learning where you stop. What's yours and what's not. And number two, you begin to comprehend the power of what it is to not take your life personally or anybody else's. To not take your life personally. This is what gives you access to the impersonal realm, eventually the cosmic realm, a place where you can't comprehend anything, but you know it's there. But you get to your archetypal realm, where you begin to understand that, in fact, we are an archetypal network of consciousness. That all the myths you believe, you don't even realize you are operating under. You don't even realize you have contracts with patterns inside of you that you are supposed to work with in this lifetime, because they fit into a greater collective. These are the contracts you've agreed to. One of the last things Jesus said on the cross, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. They're under contract. Ad-libbing here. But everyone has a role to play. You have a role to play, and people have a role to play in your life. And one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to break your ego in half in such a way that you go for your cosmic ego, and not your personal petty one, but your major league one, so that you make room for other people's lives in the story of your life. and the role they're playing. And that you can spot the archetypal dynamic that's going on. Maybe we'll never fully understand. Don't ever give yourself credit for fully understanding anything. But be grateful even for an insight. Even an insight. Even recognizing that what's going on with this person, what's going on with me, what's going on with anyone, is you recognize the addict archetype. And what that does is it elevates you enough off the first floor, maybe even into the third floor, where you recognize this person has a pattern going on. And everybody with this pattern does the same thing. So suddenly, you have a chance to discern the difference between what is personal and what is impersonal. And that when someone has a pattern, their behavior is determined by that pattern more than by the lesser self until they are able to confront that pattern and take it on. But the same is true with you. So the object with you is, I wonder what my patterns are. Never mind your patterns, the heck with your patterns. What are mine? You should ask your friends, they see them very clearly. Believe me, your patterns drip off of you. Don't mistake your personality for your patterns. That's what people do down here. Your personality are not your patterns. Okay? But getting to a place where you can begin to grapple with the fact that this is an impersonal universe, and that events that unfold on this planet are also impersonal, including war, including destruction. When I hear people say, after an earthquake, after something, all those innocent people, what a shame. Now that's a direct personal thing. That comes from someone who says, I have to believe this, otherwise I could be killed in that. And I have to continue to believe this illusion that there are innocent people and guilty people, and so really only guilty people should be subject to horrible things. And this will protect me. This is the same thing that happens when parents say my child's special. Because special kids are protected in a way that ordinary people aren't. We have a disdain for ordinary. And if you don't agree with them, well, yes, they're special. No, they're not. They're kids. Don't ever tell me your kids are special, because this is the look you're going to get. And what's worse is don't tell your kids that. Don't curse them with that. You may tell your kids they're special to you, but they're not to me, and they're not to anybody else. Wake them up. Stop it. Snap out of it. You do something special. You're assigned it. But you're not born special. Do you know how many people suffer because they're still wandering the earth looking for whatever special thing they were born for? All right. Humans. The disdain for the ordinary. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. I'm telling you. Okay. Now, in your first floor, this is where polarity reigns. So in your psyche, ask yourself, if the way you see the world is right and wrong, good or bad, up and down, win or lose, do you have to get the last word in? Okay. And is this a world where you trust your five senses over anything else? Because this, in the first floor, is where you are really gripped in a five-sensory world. This is your strong anchor. And one of the things in this world, in your consciousness, is that, like when, this is literal. When I look at the movement, for example, for creationism, where people take scripture literally, this is the first and second floor. That creation happened in 6 days. What about the dinosaurs? Well, who knows? Right? Where they're incapable of understanding the, quote, get up here, the mystical meaning of Scripture. The mystical meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. Incapable of understanding that. Incapable of understanding that. What is the meaning of all of the patterns of war being awakened right now? What is happening now? If I took you up here right now and said, all right, I want you to look at something on the earth. I want you to look at this moment and see clearly that the psychic patterns of wars have been reanimated. The Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Crusades. I need you to look clearly that psychic patterns have been reanimated. And you can't understand that at all. You have to be able to go into the room of reanimation with absolutely no judgment. You have to absolutely get, or at least grapple with, that as we shift from one epic age to another, as we leave the fossil age, where we are people of the earth, our hands in the earth, our wealth in the earth, our capacity to dominate other human beings in the earth, our capacity to divide the earth by these boundaries, and every nation formed out of war, to being directed to holism, your body founded, divided, discovered under fossil era, an era of division, male, female, body, soul. In this world, division was power. Who won, who lost? Rational, emotional doesn't count. In this world of fossil intelligence, we only went so high. If you were not rational, you could be enslaved. You could be destroyed. You could be anything. Because that's how it was organized. The age of reason. As soon as we got into the age of energy, the nuclear age, the template shifted and we went solar. You can't function without being on your... I've watched people go on their phones even while I'm lecturing. How dare you? But you can't stay out of the energy realm. It's the first thing you do in the morning, is connect yourself to energy consciousness. You can't be away from it. Our medicine is now energy. Now we have AI. The point is, we are completely transitioning to an energy consciousness world. We are in touch with each other in what? Light speed. What we have done is taken our inner net, our soul connection, which, come up here, has always been there, but we've duplicated it technologically, and we'll eventually realize, oh my God, we have always been connected, because there's the collective unconscious. Oh, is that how prayer travels at the speed of light? Is that how I do medical intuitive readings? At the speed of light, on the internet. Oh my God, I think we're transparent to each other. I think we're all one. And that's how the law of oneness is technically operating. Which means, every choice I make affects the whole. Now I get how it happens, just like the internet. Now, whether or not someone wants to rise that high and live by that truth, that's your challenge. But I will tell you that this idea that the values of this world can no longer sustain our world. This is a world where people live on the value, the illusion that there's not enough, that we can't share, that we have to be divided by boundaries. I ask you to look at your body. If you said to your body organs, I'm sorry, there's not enough food, so I am going to starve my one kidney, because your body is your micro-earth. And it operates just like the macro-earth. And that's your contribution. How you treat your micro-earth is your macro-earth. And if you said to your organ, sorry, I'm not going to treat you like one whole being, one whole system. The more you treat yourself like a whole system, the more you operate by whole truths, the more you contribute to the whole, the more you are a light on the internet. The more light you draw to yourself, the more light you give. You are a being of light. You are an agent of change. You don't have to, in this world, use money and power and your voice and scream and guns. Here, you use the power of your internet. But I'm telling you, the transition, it is up to each of us to realize how much we have invested in this power. And that's our journey, is to get how much we've invested in this power, because that's what all humanity is going through now. Now, before we go on, any questions? I'll take 3 questions here.